So up until just recently, I was a cooked CS grad, and this video is going to be about my year of unemployment from December 2024 to December 2025. Now, I just hope that if you're in the same situation I was, or you were in the same situation, hearing someone else's perspective can provide some relief or reassurance that you're not the only one out there, and also that my experience can give you possible insights. Now, my main hopes with this video is that if you're in the same situation as me, hearing someone else's perspective can help provide some relief or reassurance that you're, not the only one out there feeling that way, and that my experience, if I'm lucky, can bring you some insights or even help you. Now, there's obviously a lot happened in 2025, and it's not really possible for me to sum up all of it in a short video, but this is just going to be my biggest insights and takeaways that I would want to convey to anyone who may be in my situation now or may be about to be in my situation. Now, before I get into my actual insights, I just wanted to give a quick summary of how my year actually went. I basically graduated with no internship experience, no industry experience, and no idea really what I wanted to do. All I had to my name was some basic coding experience and a CS degree. And the year was tough because the entire year, while I didn't have any strict responsibilities, I also had no idea really what I was supposed to be doing. But what I ended up doing was building projects, sending applications, and trying to network on LinkedIn would be a summary of the main things that I focused on. Now, for a long time, I really did resist getting a part-time job for multiple reasons, but the biggest one was probably just shame. Shame that I would have to work at a place like Starbucks or McDonald's or Costco, while a lot of my friends were getting the white-collar jobs that they wanted. I found it hard to accept that after years of college and what I thought was doing the right thing, that I would have to work at a place that I could have gotten out of high school. And on a more practical standpoint, I also worried that it would make it harder to look for a full-time job. But in all honesty, I think that was just a smaller factor compared to the other two. But ironically, it was actually my pursuit of a part-time substitute teaching job that ultimately led to the job that I'm working at now, and I'll get to that later. Now, the first, maybe seemingly obvious insight or realization that I had was that life isn't a pipeline, or at least not always. And I don't think I would have said it out loud, but I feel like on a more subconscious level, I always felt like life was a pipeline, that as long as you follow the correct path that people tell you to go down, that certain results are guaranteed, and society will always be there to deliver on the promises that it makes to you. And I always heard from my dad about how when he graduated, companies were lining up to hire new grads, and I think I just maybe hopefully and naively assumed it would be the same for me. Now, I'm sure at this point, many, if not most people, kind of realize that this is the case, and I might be the odd one out that was this naive. But for anyone that does have any inkling of that type of mindset or belief, I urge you to question that mindset and realize that nothing is guaranteed, and to put more effort into planning for your future. And I do want to make it clear, this wasn't a mindset that I think I consciously had. I think that was maybe what made it dangerous, was that it was something underneath the surface that I kind of avoided thinking about, because on a psychological level, I think you just want to assume that things will work out, even when there's really no guarantee that they will. And I think everyone knows that, but it's whether you can acknowledge that or not. Now, a lot of my time, if not most of my time, was spent working on personal projects. And I flip-flopped a lot between different things, left a lot of projects half-baked or half-completed. But overall, it really gave me a better sense of what I enjoy doing, what types of work is out there. It taught me new skills, and arguably, most importantly, it gave me something to put on my resume and something to talk about. And eventually, I started thinking more seriously about the idea of entrepreneurship, with the encouragement of my dad. See, entrepreneurship accomplishes teaching you skills that are actually relevant in the industry, giving you something to put on your resume and talk about, and actually, if you're lucky, has the potential to turn into real income. The idea was that AI may mean that companies don't need as many people to operate, but it also means that you can do more on your own and work at greater speeds and build more things than you ever could have in the past. Dude, the biggest thing and most important thing I built last year was an entire mobile app that I launched to real users, solving what I think is a real problem. Now, what is there to learn from this? I personally recommend that no matter who you are, just start doing things that are related to anything that you're interested career-wise. Um, it doesn't have to be software engineering. It really could be anything. And document it and show it to other people. Now, if you want to be a software engineer, don't just think about how to build something. Think about why to build something. Think about what problem are you solving and why, and who are you solving for. Now, my thesis is that as AI becomes better and better, building becomes the easy part, and knowing what to build becomes actually the bigger bottleneck and the more important skill to have. Now, the third realization that I made is that cold apps are dead. And I always had this hypothesis, but after I asked some friends of mine who worked in the industry and had insights into the hiring process, they confirmed my hypothesis and said that almost all their hires come from recruiters or the pre-existing network, and they basically just confirmed to me that yeah, like cold apps are extremely difficult and are essentially lottery tickets. Now, obviously, that's an exaggeration. I still strongly recommend sending cold apps because even lottery tickets have a chance of winning, and just keeping in touch with the hiring process, what companies are hiring, what skills do they want, can be very valuable. I just think you should really think about how much time you want to invest in doing that. And obviously, this is really going to depend on the person. Some people may be getting a lot of success from cold apps. Maybe the resume looks really good. In your case, if that's you, keep on doing what you're doing. But if you need to send out 100 applications for a chance at an interview, you should really start thinking about reinvesting your time into something else. Getting that level of results like I was does not mean send more applications, it means send less. Now, you may be wondering, what is that something else? And that something else is networking. It's probably the most consistent piece of advice that I've heard from over a year of looking for a job. Almost everyone that I know, including me, ended up landing their job through a connection. The ROI of sending a DM to someone or sending a message to someone asking for an informational interview or referral is just so much greater in my experience than ever sending out a cold application. See, I even got to the point that I started to think about my outreaches as my applications. At first, I may have sent out some messages to people, asked them if they wanted to have an informational interview, but I really don't think I was as aggressive as I could have been and should have been. See, what I did, I made a list of everyone who I thought may be able to give me insights or referral or who were in any way adjacent to the areas that I wanted to work in. See, I asked them if they knew of anyone else that I should talk to. I found people on LinkedIn. Be aggressive with how many people you reach out to. Do not be afraid to reach out to people. The worst they could say is no or not respond to you. But don't be aggressive with the actual people. Respect their space and approach them respectfully. Now, the final thing that I would want someone who is in my shoes to realize is that opportunity is when hard work and luck come together. Now, that was something that I always heard my dad say throughout my year of unemployment, but it really came true at the end for me. As I said earlier, the way that I ultimately actually ended up landing the job that I have now was through someone that I reached out to because I was looking for a part-time substitute teaching job. So, I had finally come to terms with the fact that it's time for me to get a part-time job. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get the software engineering job that I want, and I started looking into substitute teaching. And they needed to get references from people who have seen you work with kids. And one of the few people I could think of was the supervisor of a counselor and training program that I did back in high school. And this was almost 10 years ago that I hadn't talked to him. And I had to go through the community center and then find someone there to reach out to him to ultimately get connected with him. But ultimately I did, and he was like, yeah, I'm down to give you a reference. And I told him that I had been looking for a job for a year, and he told me that he would let me know if anything came up. And, I didn't really expect anything to come of it because, plenty of people had told me that. But lo and behold, not too long later, he reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in an AI startup that his friend was working on. And of course, I was super excited and said yes. He introduced me to his friend. I went through a couple interviews, and lo and behold, they ended up liking me and hiring me. Now you could just say that you just got lucky, right? There really none of your work that you put in up to this point even mattered, but that was far from the truth. During these interviews, everything that I had been working on for the whole year really came to play. I could talk about all the projects that I've been working on. When they asked me technical questions, I was able to answer them because I had actually worked on stuff with them. I was able to talk about how not only can I build things, but I can build things that people actually are interested in. And it really was more about the fact that I had things to talk about and the fact that I was able to think um, in this way, think about people, think about technical things that I think is ultimately what made me someone that they were interested in hiring. So what I think you should take away from this is that you should recognize that to some extent you're probably going to need to get lucky um, in order to get a job to some extent. But also realize that there are things you can do to maximize the chances of getting lucky, such as going to networking events, building in public, basically things that involve getting yourself in front of people and also building experience in doing things. Um, and also realize that you need to put in the work in preparation for the moment in which you get lucky, which I think, given enough time, will happen. Now obviously, hearing rejection after rejection, being unable to land interviews can definitely kind of take a toll on your ego. But I really think it's important that you recognize that it shouldn't. Don't let rejection make you feel like you're not valuable or not competent. There's plenty of people doing the same exact job that you want to do that are not as smart or not as capable as you. The reason you may be struggling to land a job or land interviews isn't because you aren't good enough or not smart enough. It's because you don't have the right words in your resume or you haven't met the right person yet. So if you are in the same situation that I was or worried that you may be, I hope this helped you.